All right, so this is our website, but it's not what matters. Our newsletters are what matters. So the Evergrey is a daily newsletter for the city of Seattle. It goes out Monday through Friday, 7:30 in the morning. Written by me and, since October, a reporter named Anna Sophia, who's amazing. We're a very small team, and we're really trying to do one thing in Seattle. We are trying to help people make the most of their city. We are trying to help people feel connected to their city, feel powerful, feel like they can access what's going on and what matters, and to do it in a product that they can read in 3 to 4 minutes every day. So to start off with a little bit of stats, I suppose, we have 8,600 subscribers, 18 months old. We have a 38% open rate, which we think is pretty good. It's not 120. I never even heard of 120 before today. I didn't know that was a thing. So holy crap. Yeah, would love that someday. That'd be cool. And our tagline is "Live like you live here." So it's important to note that despite the name newsletter, I actually don't consider us to be really news. We're about what it takes to build a great local life, and there's a reason we did that. So stepping back real quick to talk about Seattle for a moment. Anyone here in Seattle? I know Matt is. We got some Seattleites. Okay, so like many urban centers, Seattle is growing like crazy right now. It's actually the fastest growing city in the country. It has the 3rd largest homeless population, and the 2 richest people on the planet live in Seattle. It's a really interesting place. Amazon is transforming it from the inside out, bringing so many newcomers from around the country and around the world. So whether you just arrived in Seattle or you've been there your whole life, you have a craving to get grounded because things are shifting so quickly. So the Evergrey launched in October of 2016, 2 weeks before the election, by the way, with that mission what would it take to help people get grounded? So it's important to say how we even got this started. We started with some pretty intense research. More than 60 hours of interviews with folks in the city that we had sort of curated this list of communities that we knew we wanted to reach. And we talked to them, we asked them questions. And the questions were not, what news do you read? They were, what's your relationship with this city? Questions like, a year from now, let's say you want to get out of here. What had to have happened here for that to be your reaction? Or a year from now, you cannot believe how much you love Seattle. What had to have happened for you to have that reaction? Questions about their relationship with the city. And we learned an incredible amount. It was just a whole room full of Post-it notes, all these patterns and things that we were seeing, and probably the number one most important lesson was that for people to care about what's going on around them, they have to make enough relationships to feel invested. They have to find their tribe. They have to know where they belong. Right now, we're getting pulled to the national. We're getting pulled to, the things that are not local at all. But it's in local where you can have the most impact. It's in local where you work and you drive and you see your friends and you hang out. If you have a great local life, that could eventually mean pretty awesome things for your city. It could mean pretty awesome things for your happiness, your joy, the value you feel is coming to your life. We actually think about these things. That was a really important lesson. The people who weren't all that happy in Seattle hadn't found their tribe. They hadn't found their community. So we thought, what if we can help? What if that's the value we can deliver? And we came up with some core values that we think of as chubby, curious, honest, useful, bold, and inclusive. So that was something else from the research. We knew that whatever we did was going to have to be that. And the other thing that we decided from the research was we have to make this a newsletter. Why did we make this a newsletter? When you're an email, what's the emails you read that make you happiest? It's the ones from your friends. And we saw this opportunity to sort of take this on. Myself and my co-founder, Annika Anand, both felt that maybe the way journalism needed to change and evolve was to get closer to people. What would that look like? And we loved the idea of a newsletter, because with a newsletter, you can start with a hello and end with a goodbye. You can be personal. You can really write to them and about them, and you can include them. So we did go with the newsletter. So now I'll actually open one of these so you can see what's up. I loved the subject line. We'll just go in here. Okay, so I'm going to take you through the anatomy of an Evergrey newsletter. First, the introduction. It's always a good morning, a hello, and the day of the week, just to kind of ground us in something. And then we have what we call main content. So every day we put something that is original, something that we have created for the community, usually with the community's help in some way. In this case, we were collecting everybody's favorite murals from around the city. So pro tip for local, anything that is sort of like a hidden gem, delightful, people feel they have insider knowledge, they love to share. We got so many recommendations for beautiful murals in Seattle, and we wanted to update them on that. So this is our main content. So we had the intro, this is main content for this particular day. You'll notice one formatting thing we do. We always bold the names of our readers. So things they contribute, they will get called out, they will get thanked, and they will always get bolded in our newsletter. And I should mention that main content, the way we think of our editorial strategy, another word, pride, we will publish perspectives, resources, introductions to communities around the city, because again, we want you to find your community, discoveries and explainers. We think we're pretty good at explaining things that are actually very unclear, and we've done that several times in our newsletter. So here's another section we think of as our news roundup. It's always got this heading, now here's what's going on in your city. It's a sampling of the conversations and the articles going on in Seattle that day, and it's always a mix. There was one reader who gave really awesome feedback that I loved, and she said, the Evergrey has this way of always finding light even in darkness. So when there's bad news and sad news, it's not that we don't sugarcoat it, but we'll give energy to it. We'll try to find some way to end with action. We'll try to find some way to make you feel like there is a direction this can go in that could be good, maybe. We'll try to gather some hope. We also think about what I call guilt-free reading. So everything in the Evergrey, there's just no jargon. There's no initiative number. There's no, representative so-and-so without explaining who the heck that is. We always take a step back, assuming that somebody could be reading this and it's their third day in Seattle. So the Puget Sound takes no crap was from the fact that they banned putting sewage into Puget Sound. So proud of that subject line. Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, that's slipping. Okay, no problem. Sometimes we have extra sections. This one is a You Said It, so a reader email that led us to discover a really interesting new aspect of a local story. So this person sent us some cool information, and we just added it back in the newsletter. And then every email always has our calendar of events. Now this may look pretty thrown together, but it's really not. We actually have a whole process for how we come up with events. Events are really important in the lives of locals. Events are the opportunity to go out and meet people. Events are the opportunity to go out and listen to somebody, join a community, have fun, take your kids out. So we actually have all these emojis you see. There's a code. And each week, we have to find enough events that fit the code. So for example, you'll see red balloons are family-friendly events. The outdoors here are for the outdoors. Then there's music, but the most important ones are red balloons for family. This hand wave, is about you can go and meet people. This is primarily a networking or mingling event. The light bulb is for learning new ideas, lectures and things like that. The speaking is for listening to other locals with really interesting stories and speaking out. And then the outro. So that very quickly is sort of the body of the newsletter. Another thing I should mention is the language we use is very intentionally trying to promote the idea that it is okay for you not to be reading the local news all the time. Nobody does and nobody has to. So for example, if you think about the phrase, in case you missed it, ICYMI, right? Who's seen that on social media? It's everywhere, right? We never use it because in case you missed it, innately says, you're supposed to not miss it, ever. But in case you did, here you go. And we think that that actually adds strange pressure to somebody's life. And the Evergrey doesn't add pressure. The Evergrey just wakes up with you and tells you what's going on without making you feel like you're doing anything wrong by being busy. I think that's fine. So should mention that we are primarily an email newsletter, and that's the metric that matters, is subscribers and growth. but we try to be very, very close to people. So I'm just going to quickly talk about some of the things that we have done, the experiences and events. We have regular reader meetups in places that we think people ought to go check out because they're really cool in the city, or with a guest that we think that they can be introduced to. We did, at the last local election for mayor, we asked folks in the Evergrey community who wanted to join the Evergrey Leadership Board. And the Evergrey Leadership Board, we all got together, figured out what questions they wanted to ask the mayoral candidates, and then they interviewed the mayoral candidates. And that was really fun. The Evergrey Writing Group, rather than hire freelancers, we asked folks in the Evergrey community who wanted to sort of express themselves to the city, who had an interesting story to tell, who wanted to just become sort of a better, writer or anything like that. And we got like 60 applications, came down to a group of 14 people, and that was the Evergrey Writing Group. And they met twice a month for 5 months and workshopped each other's local essays and posts and things like that, and we published some of them. So that was really fun. We had a Facebook group with 500 members called Embrace the Gray. And the goal of Embrace the Gray was, Seattle's very rainy, what if we can help each other actually take steps to make the rain more okay, to actually get to a place where the gray doesn't bring us down? That was a lot of fun. We created a bunch of really interesting content around that. The conversations were wonderful, lots of engagement. That ended just last month with an event that we threw to sort of celebrate it. And another one that I'll let you know about, because it was the hardest one we did, was last March. We learned, thanks to the Washington Post, actually, that the closest county to King County, which is where Seattle is, King County, Washington, the nearest county to King County that voted the opposite of King County in the presidential election was Sherman County, Oregon. So we ended up contacting somebody in Sherman County, building a pretty great relationship. Someone who had voted for Trump, and Seattle and King County, very, very not Trump, very not Trump. And it turned out a lot of people in our community were curious because there really aren't a lot of vocal conservatives or Republicans in Seattle, and they wanted to meet them and understand what's going on. So we took a 10-hour road trip with 19 people from King County, and we met 16 people from Sherman County in the county seat of Morrow, which only has 200 people, so that's pretty good, that 16 of them came out. And we had a pretty amazing 4 hours of structured conversation to just see each other as human beings and restart some divisions. That was a really incredible experience. So let's see. I will say a couple more things. The main thing, with newsletters and the way we're... Oh, I'm sorry. Wrap it up. Yeah, sorry. Actually, I'll just skip to this. So another thing you should know about the Evergrey is we're actually part of a broader network called Where By Us. So Where By Us publishes The New Tropic in Miami, another newsletter. And just in the last month and a half, opened Pulp Town in Orlando, Florida, and Bridgeliner in Portland, Oregon. So I'd encourage you to check those out. And yeah, that's it.